5. Least restrictive environment covers 5 settings, and most of us were taught it means 1. There's one sentence, in a section almost no one quotes, that forbids the most common reason teams move a kid out of your room. Don't lose that thread.
I'm Erica, and I'd rather read the sentence than paraphrase it. 300.114, paragraph A, 2, small 1. To the maximum extent appropriate, children with disabilities are educated with children who are non-disabled. Strong presumption.
Fenrir here. One question first. Restrictive compared to what?
Compared to that same classroom, which is why small 1 isn't the rule by itself. Small 2. Special classes, separate schooling, or other removal from the regular educational environment occurs only if the nature or severity of the disability is such that education in regular classes, with the use of supplementary aids and services, cannot be achieved satisfactorily.
Only. Not usually. Only.
Every word after only is doing work, nature or severity, with supplementary aids and services, cannot be achieved satisfactorily. Skip the middle clause and you've written yourself a permission you never had.
The people who hear continuum and get nervous aren't paranoid. Separate placement has been used badly for decades for reasons that had nothing to do with a child's needs.
Yeah. It's also been used well.
Both true, Fenrir. We've built this one section at a time, present levels, then goals, then services, and the minutes behind them. All of it about what a student gets. This is the first one about where.
The paperwork follows. 300.320, paragraph A, 5, makes the team write down how much of the school day this child spends away from non-disabled peers, and it says if any. 0 is a legal answer.
The chat just pushed up the question I was planning to dodge. Grace wants it plainly. If the law leans that hard toward my room, when am I allowed to say a student shouldn't be in it? So it isn't a slogan. It's a test with a middle clause almost nobody reads.
The middle clause.
That clause is the whole episode, and by the end you'll be able to quote it. First up, the list itself, because the room most of us would put on it isn't on it. Let me pause for just a second because this genuinely helps. If you're getting value here, hit that like button, then subscribe and ring the bell. It costs you nothing, and it is the single biggest thing that keeps these videos coming. Different animal for a minute, the list itself. Professor Iwata is at the desk to help us with this one.
300.115 doesn't say a district considers a continuum. It says one has to be available. Available, I mean actually in existence, not sketched on a plan filed in August.
Okay, available, meaning they already have them, not that somebody goes looking in March. And I always assumed that part was just a cross-reference to the, what's it called, 300.39. But no, they're right there in the parentheses, all 5 of them.
Instruction in regular classes, special schools, home instruction, and instruction in hospitals and institutions, 5, printed right there in the parentheses. And the field reads that order as least to most restrictive.
The 5-room list. Most teachers I've worked with have seen a version of it, and mine had 6 rooms on it. 2 years of laundry folding audiobooks, and I never read the actual section.
Yours had 6 because somebody added the resource room. Understandable and wrong. Resource room isn't on the B1 list, it sits in B2, a separate paragraph requiring supplementary services in conjunction with regular class placement.
That changes the latter, Cynthia. Our resource room isn't a rung you climb down to. Under B2, it rides alongside the regular class, the regulation's own example.
You're right that Continuum has been used as cover. That's real. So the fear underneath is fair. Say Continuum out loud, and does it mean fewer kids in general education?
I want to say around 2/3. But I don't trust my memory on a number people will quote back at me. Pull the page. Straight off the federal indicator. Read the whole sentence because the front of it matters. It's about school-age IDEA students who are in regular schools. Then, quote, the percentage who spent 80% or more of their time in general classes increased from 61 to 67%. Fall 2022, most recent year published. Write that down, not my guess.
67. Sit with that one.
So the continuum existed the whole time and that number still went up.
It did, That same fall, 95% of school-age IDEA students were in regular schools. Wait until you see the box where a removal gets written down. There are 2 words inside it that everybody reads straight past.
2 words, okay, but 67% is a number about where kids already are. It doesn't tell a team where this kid should be, and the thing that decides that is
one paragraph. 300.116, paragraph E. Nobody quotes it.
Start at the outcome. A 5th grader reads 3 years below grade level. The team writes modified assignments into the IEP. 2 weeks later, he's out for reading, then math, then science. Nobody made a decision. It accumulated.
the way the schedule builds. Forget the schedule. Go to the first move. Somebody decided modified work is easier to deliver somewhere else, and paragraph E aims straight at that assumption.
Remember the sentence I said was hiding in a section almost nobody quotes? A child with a disability is not removed from education in age-appropriate regular classrooms solely because of needed modifications in the general education curriculum. Word for word, and solely is carrying it. That settles it for the modified work case. Small version though. Stack the writing requirement on top, and a team that can't explain a removal on paper can't defend it in the room. Hold on for that one.
Guess for me, Fenrir. That placement section, how many lettered paragraphs does it spend telling a team how to decide?
2, maybe 3.
5. A through E, and paragraph E is only the last one.
Paragraph A puts the parents in the group that decides. B says at least annually based on the IEP as close as possible to home. C says the school he'd attend if he weren't disabled, unless the IEP requires otherwise. D says weigh potential harmful effect on the child and on the quality of the services he actually
Needs, both directions. That half never makes the poster.
both directions. To borrow Cynthia's phrase, the 5-room list never says which harm to weigh. Harm from separation is real. So is harm from a service a child can't get in a full general education room. Paragraph D weighs both, which is why nobody answers it with a
Policy, weigh it how? Somebody writes down what they weighed.
they do. There's a box, and most people treat it as a formality.
Not a formality, a record. Of the school-age IEP students who are in regular schools, 13% spend under 40% of the day in general classes, and almost nobody arrives there in one meeting. One box on the IEP, and it's where every placement argument either holds up or falls over.
One box. Professor Iwata is still with us, and one box is where the whole placement decision gets explained.
The box has a name in the regulation. 300.320, paragraph A5.
An explanation of the extent, if any, to which the child will not participate with non-disabled children in the regular class, and in the activities described in paragraph 4.
Explanation. Not a percentage. Most of what gets typed there is a number. 80% general education.
The 5-room list doesn't help here. The box doesn't ask which room. It asks why not this one.
The why sits in a different section entirely. A2, small 2 of the LRE rule, the removal test. It turns on nature or severity and on whether the regular class with supplementary aids running could get the job done satisfactorily.
Fenrir, this is the part people get wrong. Take a composite. Marcus, a 7th grader with a specific learning disability in reading, decoding somewhere around a 3rd grade level. The team wants him out of English for part of the day. The explanation carries 4 things, and not one is his diagnosis. Which supplementary aids were in place, audio text, a scribe, extended time, how long they ran, what the data did, and what could not be achieved satisfactorily in that room even with them.
6th grader, I thought. Doesn't matter. Stop at satisfactorily. The word is satisfactorily. Not at all. Not perfectly. Satisfactorily. I've got a 2-page right here. No number in it anywhere.
7th grader, by the way. And you're right, I've been sloppy. I keep saying the test is whether it can be achieved. The regulation says satisfactorily. Not the same bar.
Professor Iwata, if a team writes all of that and the parent still disagrees, what happens to the box?
Which disagreement? About the removal or about the aids that came before it? Two different arguments, and families lose the second.
The aides. They think we never really tried.
Then the box is the wrong fight. An explanation is only as good as the record behind it.
Pause here and pull up one IEP you're responsible for. Find that box. The two words I told you to wait for are sitting in it, if any. Which means a team may write that the student is never removed, and the form expects that answer.
Professor Iwata, thank you. You took the one word I have skipped and made it the paragraph.
Seconded. Come back when I've got a longer printout.
Bring a highlighter. Paragraph A4 runs longer.
Everything so far keeps a placement defensible. What's left is where teams lose it. The 10 minutes when a sentence that sounds like kindness gets taken as a reason.
Thursday, 9 minutes in, somebody says it. He'd do better in a smaller setting.
Yeah, and it always sounds like kindness.
It usually is kindness. It is also not a reason yet.
So you ask 4 things. The order is the trick.
1. Which supplementary aids did we actually try and for how long?
2. What did the data do while they were running?
3. Is this about the child or about our
Budget. It's always the budget.
schedule? Though the LRE rule does reach your budget 1 Fenrir. Its paragraph B says a state funding mechanism must not result in placements that violate paragraph A.
4. And it's the one that gets skipped. What happens to lunch, to recess, to the assembly? 300.117 is its own short section. Each child with a disability participates with non-disabled children in the non-academic and extracurricular activities to the maximum extent appropriate to the needs of that child, and the agency supplies the aids his IEP team says he needs to be there.
Recess has a regulation. My black coffee doesn't, and it's still cold.
Meals and recess are named in the text, not implied, named.
Read me the actual removal line, not the paraphrase. Put both versions side by side.
Removal holds up when the aids were tried, the data is in the file, the group decided together, and the IEP explains the extent. It falls apart when the record says modified work, an easier schedule, or where the program runs.
You keep saying satisfactorily. What does satisfactorily mean in one sentence?
It means the team judged the regular class wasn't working well enough, even with the supports in place.
So it's a judgment, not a threshold.
A judgment, written down, with the evidence attached.
The one move to carry out of this, go read 300.115 on the Department of Education's own IDEA site and read paragraph B1 all the way to the end. Do not stop at the cross-reference. Keep going into the parentheses. 5 settings, in the government's own words. And here's what I'd actually do at the table. Say paragraph E out loud by number, not the slogan, the number.
A citation gets argued differently than an opinion does, Cynthia. Least restrictive isn't a room. It's a sentence with a middle clause, and the clause is where the argument lives.
If this cleared up a phrase you've been using slightly wrong, I did for years, hit like and subscribe so the next one finds you. Now my question for you, what is the one placement decision you have seen that nobody in the room could actually explain? Nobody is born knowing this, and you're already ahead of where I was. Take care of yourself this week and take care of that kid.